Stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll begin with the minutes of the January 22nd, 2019 board meeting. Do we have a motion?
I'll move.
Moved by Bob,
I'll second.
second by Mike. Discussion, corrections, anyone? All in favor? Opposed? Passed. We'll go right into public comments, anyone? Mark?
Mark Prairie. I was just curious about the heat in this building. It's currently set for 73 or 74. I mean, it just seems a little warm tonight. But I didn't know if there was a standard or what the temperature should be here all the time. I came in for a Lions Club meeting last Thursday night, and it was 74 in here, which seems to be a little warm.
A lot warmer than my house.
I'm sorry?
It's just a lot warmer than my house.
Yeah, mine too.
We try to keep it at 68 when there's nobody in here, and then they adjust it as they're in here.
And then Val hides in his room.
Something to think about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Especially when it's 15 below outside and 74 in here.
A lot of
Randy, did
degree.
you review for them what you and I talked about some time ago about the heating and the thermostats?
Oh.
Remember when the kids?
Yeah, I can,
Because that might, or might not have some bearing on why it is what it is.
the kitchen and that room have no heat ducts in them, per se, no zone, I should say. So the zone that feeds them is this room, that there. So in order to get heat to go into that room, you have to have this room warm to the point, you know, whatever. So when it was super cold out, they were keeping this room, remember I just said the 68 and higher when they're in here, because they didn't want anything in the bathroom, or the kitchen freezing or anything else. And you walk through that, obviously storage is not a big deal, but you walk through the door and there was, when this one was cool, that one was even cooler.
We didn't, the architect did not put heat in a room that has running water?
He put heat in it,
Okay.
but it's in the same duct system as this room.
As this
So
room.
if this out there, heat is coming into here, this zone upstairs will not turn on.
Okay.
So that means that room over there gets no, with the door shut, gets no heat.
So if we shut this
So
door,
if we shut these two doors and keep this room at 68 or 70, then all those rooms would be there. But as soon as they keep these doors open during the day or whatever, basically this zone will shut off, cools that room off because the heat's coming from there into here. It,
Yeah, I know, and that was an issue that was brought up before.
Here.
Right, so that's why.
in the beginning of the year when it was super cold, remember back in November,
We
it
looked
was
into it.
frigid in the thing. I
Right.
said we gotta keep heat in this room in order to keep it in that room.
Would it be difficult to put another zone in?
Yes, because it would be a whole nother ductwork system, cutting this, that, and now that everything is,
Or even a
spray
piece of
foam.
electric heat?
it's, what's that?
Could we put in a piece of electric heat?
You could.
just to take the edge off.
Yeah.
I mean,
Which, like Bob said, if we keep these doors shut,
yeah,
Yeah, but.
it
that'd
also
be
doesn't-
difficult though, wouldn't it, Karen?
Yeah, I know, it was just, logistics was, the final answer was, yeah, it is what it is, and that's why it is because of that, you know. Should it have been zoned differently, possibly, you know, with different zones and a separate duct system for one end of the building, and like some of you may have zones in your house that you can regulate, you know, different temperatures, and I don't, some people do, especially in the newer construction, but when I talked to Randy about it, they understood it better, and
which I didn't
know what the
realize until we
answer
went
is
upstairs and
without
started
any
looking
good
around.
answer.
Figured
Well,
out
what-
what was what.
Would it make sense to put a small electric
If we
baseboard
could put a
heater in
baseboard
there,
heater in there,
then you could reduce the heat in the rest of the
Right.
building.
right,
And they're not that much money.
no,
They're pretty inexpensive and easy to install.
So one for this room and one for where the wall, because there's water, and there's a water supply in the closet here, because that's where the slop sink is.
Yep.
And of course, there's a water supply in the kitchen.
so we'd have to put one in each room,
Right, exactly.
Then they go 2-footer,
yeah, 3-footers, whatever they are.
yeah.
Yeah, so maybe for next winter, that would certainly be a consideration, if it would reduce the amount of heat consumption in the rest of the building.
Well, it would, then
Yeah.
you could keep the
Because
temperature
then we
down
could keep
here.
this one down, and that would make up for it in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Can this be restricted, which would force more to?
Is there
Which would
dampers?
force more, yes, but it's, yes, there's a damper rate above there.
I just
but-
asked the question.
It's gotta kick on is what we ran into the issue, is it wasn't kicking on because the heat was coming in, you know. You could move the thermostat into that room and make it regulate off of that room.
Then this might be
You
cold.
This-
end up the same thing, you're gonna cook in here then.
You might end up cooking, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
Would it end up kind of defeating the purpose of saving any money with the electric costs going up to heat electric heaters?
Yeah,
As
be-
opposed to LP heating this room a little
I
higher?
would,
Those
I don't
don't
know.
draw much electricity, those little baseboard electric heaters.
Well, if you could put a piece of electric heat in, you don't need to put it on any higher than 40.
Okay.
Right.
You know, it's
Yeah,
not
just
like
to
we have
keep
to
it
be
from-
heated to 70.
yeah, or 50 or whatever, yeah,
Yeah,
just to make sure that that doesn't get,
yeah. Nothing freezes.
Well, if you're 74 degrees in here and you're 55 in that other room, it's gonna feel cool.
right.
Might be a good idea to have someone look at it and give us a professional opinion on how to.
Would you want the person that installed this system, I mean, that way they're not going back to square one, or,
Did we have a problem with that person?
yeah, we did.
Well, I'm sure what about the guy that we've been using on the air conditioners?
Yeah,
He seems pretty practical and maybe if he's up here, he can take a look at the situation and rather than end up doing it twice,
yeah,
by guessing at it.
okay.
Very good. Anyone else?
And if you want, we can, I'm sure ask the board to keep the heat down and, you know,
Who controls the thermostat?
they have a key to it.
Yeah, and I think there's covers on them.
Yeah, there's covers on them,
Yeah,
so
we
it's
put the covers
just
on
the
so nobody can
staff
play
here
with them.
controls it.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not here enough to say,
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
you know, 65 is good enough. And come in here and find out they're wearing jackets and everything else.
Right.
We can do it, I mean, it's our town building, so you guys can.
Are we creating a problem to ask them if they can keep the heat down? Or-
I don't think the staff necessarily would be, as opposed to keeping the heat down until a patron complains. Somebody who sits in here and is using their computer, their laptop, or sitting here reading, which a lot of people just kind of hang out, or using the computers. The staff, I think, is busy enough and active enough.
Or they're
At a
moving
lower
around a bit,
temperature, I don't think they would be opposed to,
Yeah.
until you start hearing people say, why is it so cold in here?
Yeah.
So you can try it, and then we
Right,
start
we can
getting
try it, and
complaints,
then
you
just have
say,
to
well,
bring it up a little
This
bit.
isn't gonna work, but the reason we have it up is because people are complaining, because you're servicing them.
You know, they still also have various events like they do dancing in here. So, I mean, I guess the kids would get sweaty at some point. You
Right,
don't want
right.
them. They're going to be in shorts and
Yeah,
tutus
those
and
are-
whatever. So you don't want them to get cold. They do that Wednesdays when I'm here.
Yeah, but there's a happy medium, and I think maybe just some trial and error to see what works out the best. You know, we still have some days of winter here that it's gonna get cold, and I'll talk to them and see if they can try turning it down a little bit, and let's see how that works. That's
Okay.
fine.
Sound good?
Yep.
Thank you. All right, we'll move right into highway, Randy.
We've had a busy 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Start off with the VR110 transmission that I left you with last time, it was a transmission. We did have it rebuilt. I have not installed it. It sits on the shop floor right now. It's basically, the planetaries went in and the metal filings from that went through the whole transmission and destroyed it. Then I asked him if he had another one that we could, just buy a reman and put it in it, and it's a unique transmission, of course, for that groomer, which that's probably why we rebuilt it the last time. Besides for that, the trails were in excellent shape the last week and a half with all the snow that we had once we got them all groomed. The cold weather cost us a starter and a couple hydraulic lines here and there. So all in all, it wasn't that bad, and we had a lot of nice comments this weekend about the trails, so I think that worked out. Even though we were one down and both clubs were down one groomer, they still are. We moved stuff around and got it done. In that cold weather, the water line in the shop froze, did not break. We believe it was because my office door was shut, which then takes the heat out of my office, and then the water line runs in the wall of the office between the outside wall. So we get a chance, we're gonna re-plumb the water line so it's outside my office, so that situation doesn't happen again. Just run it up over the office and set it through the wall.
Which meant we had no bathrooms in the town building for quite a,
No, we haven't gotten to that yet.
we're going to.
The water line was just a mere matter of a couple hours that morning. The next thing that happened was the septic system had some issues. The float system that shuts the pump off, the float itself went bad. The pump never shut off, that pump burned up. Then, once we realized we got all that fixed, realized that in that time period, over the weekend and such, or that cold weather, the septic line that pumps up to the septic tank, that has a check valve in it, which is full of water all the time, froze. So we ended up digging up the septic line, getting that thawed out halfway between the two tanks, which is right at the end of the building going up towards the school bus garage. In that process, we've dug up the phone line and the security line going to the bus garage. So they both got fixed, well, one Friday and one Monday, today. And for about 4 or 5 days, the town had no septic system. No toilets, no running water, no nothing. Had running water, but it wasn't going anywhere. Which has all been repaired now. Working as far as I know. As much as I can expect it to. In the snowstorm 214, the PTO clutch, electric clutch, the bearing in it went. We replaced it in a one-day turnaround, so that's why if you saw the village truck in the snowstorm, that's why. The backup plan worked.
Nice.
So,
I saw it a couple times.
yeah, a lot of people saw it and was wondering what was going on, so.
Now, when that happens, is it one of our guys that is driving that plow
Yep.
or theirs?
Nope, our guys.
We just borrow
Their truck, their plow, our sander.
Okay.
We put it up there for a spare for everybody, and it worked out well that day.
Yeah, that's good.
So, our newest employees got to see the old stuff.
Sucks to be on the bottom ladder.
And then the village gets reimbursed for that equipment for state.
Yeah, I just put it in, they get reimbursed for the hours that truck is on the road. So it's a win for them also.
It's only fair, right?
Yep, we get the man hours, they get the truck hours. Garbage truck broke down today, if anybody noticed, your garbage was picked up late. It has electrical issues with the PTO, We ended up hot wiring it. Ran some jumper wires around things and got it working. But meanwhile, we were picking with a garbage or a dump truck and 4 guys. 2 in a pickup truck thrown in the garbage truck and 2 in that, so. It took a lot longer, but then we got, by the end of the day, by 1 o'clock, we had the garbage truck running, so we got the dumps through, all that, and finished up with it. So, that's my report.
So that's a temporary,
Fix,
Yeah.
yes. It is a very temporary fix. We will be working on it. It's probably the end of the week because, some of the safety switches are not in circuit right now. It has a million safety switches, but
yeah.
we went around a few of them. Also, back to the snowmobile trails, the trail from Indian Lake to Speculator is now reopened.
Yep.
So, that was rectified as quick as the lawyers could make it, I guess. It was,
It's amazing.
would have been probably 3 weeks quicker, but lawyers got involved, so.
Okay,
I'm
anything else?
impressed you're still here.
Still going.
You didn't run away.
Nope.
All right, we're moving to old business. First item I had was the budget adjustment transfers that we were looking at last week. We had a couple issues. The one on the decon unit is still not rectified yet, although we're working on that. I hope to have that cleared up this week. Randy, the other one that you had an issue with was all taken care of, correct?
Yeah, she's moving it from one ear to the other,
Okay.
is what she told me. So, it should have been a simple fix. So,
The next item I had was an update on the aquatic invasive species decontamination station update was, that's still unsettled too. DEC is still only giving us 1 person, although we've put quite a narrative together for them explaining the additional things that we've been doing in the town. And in comparison to the other towns that are getting 2.5 people, and hopefully we're pleading a case where they'll at least give us 1 more person to open up and close the decon station and have someone cover the boat ramp at Moffitt's, so. If not, we've got till February 15th to apply for a grant, but that grant amount isn't quite enough to even cover a person for the first year, or the first 2 years, so, and it's a 3-year grant, so. Or hopefully we can make headway with them, so.
If that doesn't work, would it be possible to not hire someone from Paul Smith's, hire someone locally who could do that? For
We
a
can do that
lesser
anyway, as long
amount?
as they're trained, yeah.
Mhm.
And training's free. And the problem is getting someone locally interested enough to go take the training. Yeah, that's a very good possibility if you have anybody that's interested at all in a nice summer job.
Yeah, because that,
Where would you get the training for that?
The training will be done through the Adirondack Watershed Institute at Paul Smith College.
So you'd have to go to Paul Smith's, or could you do it?
They probably won't come here.
No, yeah, you'd have to go
I didn't know if
there,
you could do it on the internet.
yeah, no.
Okay.
There's a couple options we have there, we're just hopeful that they'll,
because the cost of the people from Paul Smith's is very high.
sure is, it's $15 an hour,
Well,
yeah.
but, I mean, it's 31,000 a month.
Well, that's what it
Yeah,
figures out to,
so-
yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of money, I'm sure.
That
we
was,
could-
that was for 3 people though,
Mhm.
yeah. The next item I had was the Board of Assessment Review appointment. We had one person actually offered to take the position, and you'll see by the attached message I gave you from Barry Baker, Barry doesn't feel that that person because of being an officer of the town, would be a good candidate for the position. And, because of some recent problems we've had with assessments in the town, I have to agree with them, so. One option we have is to pursue someone else for the position, or we are tentatively looking into the possibility of a county board of assessment review. Morehouse is having a problem, they can't come up with 3 people for positions. Arietta's got the same problem. Barry's looking into the possibility of the legalities of whether that can be done. So we could have Board of Assessment review from people from other towns to create a 3 to 5 man review board. And again, we're just looking into that at this time. This just all came about within the last couple of days, and that may be an option. But if anybody knows of anybody that would be willing to sit on the bar, by all means, please let me know.
I would think it'd be better to have local people because they'd be more familiar with the values here. Or,
I questioned 2 of the other people that are on the assessment review board at that same question. They felt that the information that's given to you for each case should be sufficient not to
Oh.
be familiar with the property itself, so.
okay.
I like keeping things local, you know, with our people.
I do too, but if we don't have anyone to fill the position.
Because I just feel that if we start giving away little bits and pieces of our town to the county or to the state, we're gonna end up losing a lot of our local voice.
Well,
I'm
then
not
please
saying
come,
necessarily for the Board of Assessment review, but generally speaking, that's my feeling.
then please come up with someone to fill the position.
I nominate your husband.
So much for that.
Nancy, we all feel the same way, but,
How much does it pay?
It's getting harder and harder to find
You get-
volunteers for anything.
dinner and,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, moving on,
They get $250.
They get $250 for the year.
250 a year, is it, plus dinner? Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't need that.
Who's looking?
All right, the next item I had was a meeting that Chris and I attended, the emergency preparedness meeting. Chris, do you want me to run through what we
If you would,
discussed?
Dan.
Yeah. We met at the county building with, let's see, Bill Wharton was there from the Lake Pleasant Fire Department. Barb Taylor from the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Coordinator was there. There were a number, Cheryl Pestel was there from the village. Jeanette Barrett was there from as a trustee, and we discussed the countywide emergency preparedness plan, which is just starting to come together. Some of the things we covered was power outages, communication during emergencies, the vulnerable population registry, which should be coming out pretty soon. Everything's, we'll be discussing that on Thursday at the county board meeting to approve the flyer that'll go out soliciting the people for the list. We also discussed active shooter plan, town emergency plans, Red Cross shelters, and public health asset distribution plan. There were some interesting things that came up about shelters, something we need to discuss on a town level. In an emergency situation with animals, would we be willing to open up our animal shelter for people that have animals that would go to a warming shelter, or the school as the emergency shelter as a place for people to bring their animals?
I mean, our kennel, we only have
4.
like 4.
No, but you can put cages in there and stack cages,
Oh,
that's
that
what's
was-
done,
okay,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you can stack
put it in
cages, you
office.
got it made.
What's that?
Your office.
Enough animals in there already. We discussed the possibility of the library being just a warming shelter. This is ideal, people come here, it's very comfortable, they've got books to read, they've got a little cafeteria, bathroom.
Was the school discussed, being that,
Yeah, that's our
paying-
emergency shelter.
right.
That is, but if you don't need to open the school for overnight, if it's just a temporary situation, this might be a possibility. Again, that would have to be discussed with the Board of Trustees of the library and if they're willing to even pursue that idea. We covered things, emergency form that we need to prepare with Don Purdy, the county emergency coordinator. And I'm not sure if we have a book of procedures for emergencies. Does anybody know if there is one? Deb, do you know if there's a book of procedures?
Yeah, I think there is one.
We have the emergency plan.
We have emergency
Yeah,
plan, but
yeah,
not a book of
There's
procedures.
no procedures in that.
No,
There's something separate.
There might be something separate.
it's something we need to look into. It's something,
The emergency, so what do you want me to look for?
That's what we're gonna be
a
working on.
book of procedures. We meet again when, Chris?
March 7th?
March
Is that a
7th?
Wednesday?
No,
No,
Today's
it's a
the 4th.
Thursday. March
5th,
6th.
6th.
It's a Thursday, it looks like.
I guess you never really know the procedures.
Anyways, sometime first part of March, we'll be meeting
I'll
again
look and
and
see if I have anything.
further discuss this, so. Did I miss anything, Chris, that you can think of right off?
The only thing I would add is that it's, declaring an actual emergency where the school would be opened for, I guess, an indefinite period, I don't know, requires an awful lot of paperwork, and it starts with Dan, and then it goes north up the ladder, all the way up to SEMA.
Yep.
And it apparently takes some time to get something like that done. And if the library board of trustees is willing to use this as a warming center in the winter and a cooling center in the summer, because we've been having very hot summers, then it would just be a question of saying, you know, that the library was gonna be used for that purpose under these conditions and getting the word out, you know. And in the school's case, there's 2 paid people have to be there. One to check people in and one to be
Yep.
kind of supervising.
I think,
And we were thinking that if the library were to be used, it could be done with volunteers. So it's all stuff that'll have to be discussed.
That word volunteers is capital V.
Yeah.
Use a capital V when you use that word volunteers.
Oh, I know, it's hard to get them.
It is very hard to get them. We
Yep.
just talked about a volunteer right now for the Board of Assessment Review.
Yep.
They're having trouble getting volunteers to sit at a desk and check books in and out. So.
It's difficult.
It is, it's extremely difficult. The carrot in front of someone's nose is the dollar sign,
Yeah, apparently.
apparently. As sad as that may be or whatever, human
Reality.
nature as that being what it is, the volunteer, we are a wonderful volunteer community. We do we have a lot of dedicated volunteers here. But I see a change. I see a change in the demographics of the people here. I see a change in the number of volunteers as well. That's what they are willing to do. So as you're talking about some of these things, they're great, they're ideal. This is a wonderful building. I certainly have no objections to it if logistics work out correctly. But when you talk about volunteers, I think that's where the snafu will be.
Okay.
I think it's the dollar sign that would draw
Yeah, right.
more interest.
If we can't come up with a list of volunteers, then we'd have to look at paying somebody,
Exactly.
you know.
In
Gary?
order, in order to use the school, I don't understand why we would have to go up the ladder all the way to SEMA if that building was designated as our emergency location with cots and heat and a very
Welcome to the
expensive.
3 million regulations that New York State has.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure it has to do, Casino would have some money to come back, I would assume,
Probably.
so.
Well, would seem
They're
like
gonna come
have
up with
money
any
to come
money.
back to the library
I don't
if
know.
we had to pay
No, only for
somebody.
emergency shelters.
Only for emergency shelters.
Well,
Yeah.
that's true, you're using the word warming, cooling area versus emergency shelter.
Right,
So you
it's a
have a
big
different
difference.
designation, which takes another whole look at reimbursement for expenses incurred during those periods,
And I think the town would have to pick that up.
you know?
But the nice thing about utilizing the library is it's very comfortable.
Right.
It has a small kitchen, people can bring food with them. It's something to do, they can read.
Right.
And it gives the town a buffer, because we never know. You know, so all the power goes out all at once. It might be out for 3 minutes, it might be out for 3 weeks. We don't know. So if we go through, you know, most of a day and people can come here or someplace similar, then that gives it time to make a decision, make arrangements, get the cots that have to be taken there. And takes the American Red Cross 2 hours, she said, to get here for
Minimum
Glens
3
Falls?
hours.
Minimum 3 hours, that's right, to get everything organized and get over here and staff the school. So, I think we need
You're
something
right.
in the
You're
meantime.
right, and as an interim, that might be a good possibility, and it's certainly worth discussing. At our last power outage, we did have, you know, I was keeping track of when National Grid said the power was going to be back. I forgot the time right now, but it was past the time that the library would have been open, so
Mhm.
I did have Roxanne asked her if she would come and stay, and which she did. So the library did stay open until the power was restored, and luckily it was only, I think, an hour or an hour and a half after the library would have closed anyway.
And were you able to get the word out that that was available?
But
Were you able to get the word around town that the library was gonna stay open extra hours?
I don't know how you would go about doing that. I'm sure you might have put it on Facebook, but again, not everybody looks at
Right,
Facebook.
and
How
if
do
you have no
how do
power,
how do
you
Yeah.
know.
No internet, no power.
Well, the phone-
No power, so,
We might need a phone tree or
you
something.
know, yeah, I mean.
Well, that's what we
Like,
used to
like,
do.
Yeah.
But
Back in the
actually,
day, that's what
I
we
asked
did.
how many people came in, and she said 5.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
now whether they came in purposely or they saw that the library was open because we
Yeah.
had, you know, the electricity was
The
on.
sign, yeah.
For whatever reason, I didn't go that far to see why
Yeah.
those people came in, but it worked out good that
If
at
it
least
happened-
somebody was here.
Right,
Yeah,
if that happens again, it might be good to ask the staff to find out, did you come in just because your power was out at your home?
Yeah,
Or did you
yeah,
come
I-
in
right.
just
I-
because you wanna take a book
I
out?
just asked
Yeah.
Roxanne, did people come in? She said, yeah, there were about 5 people that came in, but I didn't ask her
Right,
in detail
Right.
why. But the library did stay open, which was good,
Yeah, that's good.
yeah.
What I found interesting that in Arietta, their school, the old Pacifico Common School, is the emergency site shelter. When the power goes out and the generator kicks on, the doors automatically unlock. And it's accessible for any of the local people to go there. Generator shuts off, the door's locked.
Interesting.
It's an unmanned, but it's technically not operating as a school anymore, so they've got
Yeah,
the,
that changes rules.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so. Maybe we'd send the people out there.
yeah, works for me.
Shared
Go
services.
Go west.
Yeah.
Did-
Can I bring up something kind of pertaining? I've had people come up to me about the sanding of the driveways. And I just would like to just make sure that we're all on the same page. We don't have this list of vulnerable people. That was one of the criteria that we were gonna go by.
Not for sanding, I think sanding was only if an emergency vehicle was needed.
Right, and then also if you declared it, we go by the
Vulnerable
vulnerable list at the county,
Which we don't have.
which we don't have.
Well, not yet, that's
Right.
in the,
Yeah.
Right,
So-
but hopefully winter will be over, what as the groundhog said, and,
Shush.
you know, we can, and we can, you know, not have to deal with this. But I believe we're supposed to get freezing rain again on Thursday. And if that's the case, I think we should maybe look at this again and decide. The other towns, Arietta does every driveway when a state of emergency is declared. Right now, and the village does also. The town of Hope and the town of Lake Pleasant are the only two that don't. So that's the one point. And the other point I wanna make is, Dan, I know you were away during this last ice storm, which was very bad.
Mhm.
And perhaps when you're not available and there's a state of emergency, someone else should be proxy to be able
Bob's the
to.
deputy.
What, but I don't know if
Supervisor.
Bob realizes that he had the,
After all these years, I'm
Yeah.
sure he does.
no, I don't know.
Well-
Would you have come out and declared a state of emergency to do?
Well, it can just be an ice emergency. That was the other thing we found out this
Okay,
week.
use that
Doesn't,
terminology.
yeah, doesn't have to be a state of emergency.
Okay, so an ice
Yeah.
emergency, so, you know, if you even knew that Dan was not around.
I knew Dan was going away, I wasn't sure when Dan came back.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it should be stated somewhere that in Dan's absence,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah,
that
I
something
take
should be.
responsibility for that.
I guess one of my concerns with the sanding of driveways is we have a number of people in town that do this as a business, and I would hate to discourage that service that they're
I've heard that
providing.
there's one right now.
Oh, I know of at least two, so,
ProCare is the only one.
oh,
that
then I
I've
know
heard.
of at least three then.
Oh, which were the other two?
Vogel and
Charlie York.
Vogel, well,
ProCare.
ProCare is Charlie York.
Vogel sands driveways,
Oh,
Yep.
I was told today.
and
he does.
CL Smith sands driveways.
Oh,
Okay.
that's right, yeah.
So I would hate to discourage,
Mhm.
Randy, don't, you have a list. Now,
I had a list, I
you
think I still have
had
a
it,
list.
okay.
yes.
I thought that in the interim.
Which is just about it was 85, 90 driveways, it might as well be every driveway
Oh,
that's
okay.
anybody's here.
Okay,
At that point, when we break that list out, it's a 2-day process.
right,
For the one truck, which right this minute is broken, but, it's a 2-day process.
and it usually ends up after 2 days of all-night plowing and all day
Exactly,
plowing.
that's the biggest
Right.
scenario is,
That's a big problem.
So the
I
manpower-
understand.
and
Yeah.
the manpower, but we can get it done, don't get me wrong, but people get to the point of, I have a doctor's appointment at 9, I have to leave.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Well, if we start going from one end of town to the next, to the next, to the next, back and forth, it'll be a 3-day process.
right.
well, I would say they need to cancel their
Right,
doctor's appointment.
exactly. I mean,
Case
it's
in
gotta be
point, I
some
agree
real-
with you,
yeah.
but, you know, the phone calls still keep coming.
Yeah, of course they do, yeah.
And it's just gotta be, for me, it's gotta be set in stone, okay, we're gonna do every driveway, like Arietta does, you know, so be it, but realize the implications that in an ice storm, when it starts freezing rain, everybody is out until it stops.
Right,
There's no extra guys available.
Right,
When it's over with, most of them are going home now to sleep. Because they've been out for 14 hours, come back 4
Exactly.
hours later, another 14 hours. As you can see in the last ice storm, and, well, you don't see that, but the payroll this last 2 periods was huge. And I'm not, you know, putting it lightly, it was huge. And it's because these guys are working 14, 12 hours, coming back 4 or 5 hours later, working that again. And to ask to go, okay, now come in on whatever day and start sanding driveways. I mean, it can happen, I'm not saying it's not gonna happen, but there's gonna be a cost involved in
yeah.
it.
Well, I'm just bringing it up because people have mentioned it to me. And,
And likewise, they've come to me, and I just,
I would think that we might also want to take into consideration the fact that it's dangerous to ask somebody to go out and plow after they've been working for 12 or 14 hours and then just a few hours of sleep.
And then when you start going into driveways, that there's cars there and everything else.
Yeah.
And then,
People get tired, they make mistakes.
yep, but that's in the nature of our business.
I know,
you know,
but,
but
I mean, if we kick this around enough, maybe we'll come up with some kind of an answer.
Yeah.
well, the answer is either more people and more trucks to make it quicker, and have people, the parts, you know, designated for it. Obviously, we're not grooming during ice storms, but that state road truck goes out a certain number of hours, and then those guys go onto the truck. They come in at different hours of the day to do that. It's got down to dollars and cents. Manpower, equipment, and all equals money.
I would guess Arietta can do all their driveways in a matter of 2 to 3 hours
Correct.
compared to probably 2 days here in Lake Pleasant.
I
So it's
personally
hard to.
I asked Greg one time when he said he was, now I gotta go sand all the driveways. I said, you're starting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? He says, yeah, I'll be done by dinner time.
Yeah,
Well, that's a little different than what our situation is.
that's right.
I would think that buying another truck and putting it on the road and another crew, wait, 2 people to man it?
One
If you want-
person.
Well, I'm talking about if you have to run constantly,
Yeah.
12-hour shift, 12-hour shift, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It would be cheaper to just pay the people who sand driveways professionally. Not that the town can legally do that, but it would
I was
make
gonna
sense
say,
to me.
you get that one through the books, that's.
It
Yeah,
would be cheaper though, if you, I mean, the federal government farms out work all the time.
Mhm.
And I wonder if there's some way, I'm not saying this is something we should do, but I think we should look into it and see what it would cost.
You already wrote it down.
Good thinking.
Okay, well, thank you. I just was bringing that up because, like I said, people,
And
Yeah.
on that, not to keep dragging this along, but the local contractors that are doing it are coming numerous times approaching me to get sand because they are out of sand.
or their sand piles are frozen.
Or their sand piles are frozen like a brick and they can't dig it out of the ground anymore, so on and so forth. So I have instructed them that they can take it for their personal use, but not for, you know, charging people.
I know one had offered to replace it.
Correct.
What's your feeling on that?
It's, as long as the quality is the same, then
Yeah.
what happens if we get put in a, not that our pile should be at any, shouldn't be anywhere as close to being.
I'm just wondering where you draw the
You know,
line on.
right, where do you draw the line? You know, he brings in 12 and it's only 8, you know.
Yeah,
yeah, that was changed several years ago when the contractors were coming back there to
Load up.
load up, and then they were charging their customers for the
yeah.
sand, so that kinda
Yeah, they're getting
stopped.
the sand for free and it's treated with salt.
I believe we had one taking sand from here and going to Arietta and sanding driveways.
Correct.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. And
Yep.
People ruin it
not
for
at all
everybody.
happy when I approached that person.
Always one or two, right?
That's right.
Well, when there's only 2 or 3 doing it, yeah.
No, but I mean, yeah, you always get someone that works an angle.
All right, something to think about. But moving on, any other old business? Hearing none. New business, we should discuss the next meeting. The next meeting would fall on President's Day, which is the 20th, no, the 18th.
18th.
Deb and I discussed this briefly, if we were to move this to the 20th, and I'll be coming back from AOT training in New York, so there's a good chance I may not be here, but if I get back in time, I'll most certainly be here, but
Bob, you'd
if
be
not,
available
Bob.
if Dan doesn't make it.
yeah, we've discussed whatever,
And
so.
far
did you
as I know.
fly, did you fly that by, Sherry?
Oh, yes, I
Okay,
talked
I
to
talked to
her,
her, okay.
Yep.
So there's Dan's class in here till 6:30, so that would be, you know, don't come
Yeah.
too early to the meeting.
unless you wanna dance.
I was learning dance.
Any other new business?
So we'll change it, advertise to change it for the 20th at 7 o'clock.
Correct. Any other new business, anyone? Then I'll entertain, ask for a motion to, pay the bills, and we have one addendum to the bills, which just added, which was, originally 9:15 for the
9:25.
payable.
9:25.
9:25.
9:25. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Chris. Second by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, and we're back to public comments.
Gary Reinhardt, town person. Have you guys ever thought of somehow using the cell phone emergency service to get the word out in case the library and or school becomes open? I know we've seen on the news that when they used it in Hawaii, I've gotten random Amber Alerts that goes to like 99% of people's phones. I don't know if there's some way to be able to tap into that, especially,
It's a good idea.
There was some discussion on, it's called robophone,
you know,
a robocall
some
system,
of that, or like I said, the.
but that's not available here yet.
Yeah, but I know that, what was it, Homeland Security was using the cell phone. And so it'd be something to think about, maybe like on that, especially because I think they either replaced or they're putting a new battery at the cell phone tower, or that's what I've heard. So it might be able to, you might be able to use.
So if we
that.
receive them on our phones now,
Right,
but it's from someplace not here,
right.
It's like a generated message that
Yeah.
can go to everybody,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a robocall
So everybody in Albany
system.
would know that our library is open for.
Yeah,
Either by robocall or by
I
text.
get it
Yeah.
from around sales.
Yeah.
that was discussed at the last emergency preparedness meeting, and, someone was looking
That's a
into
good
that to
idea.
see when it was gonna
Yeah,
be
sure
available
is.
here.
Yeah, if you could
Good job, Gary.
hone it down.
Right.
Yeah, just, I
Not
wonder
statewide.
if there's a way through the sheriff's department, through the 911, reverse 911 they have. I don't know if our sheriff's department has it, but I've heard of reverse 911. I don't know, it's a good idea.
Think about.
Thanks,
As long
anyone
as
else?
the cell phones work.
Down in Johnstown, they do have that reverse 911 because my daughter Diane lives down there. And when the power is gonna be out,
Yeah,
she gets a call and they tell you roughly when it's going out or how, stuff like that, so.
Yep.
I have one stupid question, but as far as the school goes, when you declare an emergency and they open the school up to anybody to go in there, what do they do with the kids just because of security concerns? Do they have to chase all the kids home or what do they do? With all this thing with school security now, it's just something that.
yeah.
I believe the
they have to
process
get
was-
plugged in.
When you come in, you sign in, and at that point, they would designate one spot where the people would go if the kids were there. Like the gym, they would designate that's
Yeah,
where.
but who would be there to check, if somebody could check in, could be a 5th-degree sex offender or something like that, but, those are the things that we don't think about here.
Well, the Red Cross
But it
does that.
happens every day down in the city,
That's done through the Red Cross.
Yeah, it's just something to think about.
But it takes them 3 hours to get here, so that's why
Yeah.
we're looking for something else.
But that's why they have that big generator over there, it's supposed to be, for everybody in emergency, but.
Anyone else? Roundtable, Deb, anything?
Well, I turned over $1 million in taxes so far,
Yep.
so. And got another $1 million, so I will be able to make the town whole before I turn it into county. So which would be 2.6 million.
Good.
So we've been busy.
Mm-hmm, I guess.
So you don't have much to turn over to the county?
No, I'll make Dan whole by then,
Oh, good.
The county doesn't have to pay.
so the county doesn't have to pay. And then we get whatever interest there is too, so.
Yep, good.
Nancy,
Nothing.
Chris, Bob,
No, thank you.
Randy? Mike? And I have nothing either, any reason to go into executive session? Hearing none, I'll entertain for a motion to adjourn. Anyone?
So moved.
Chris,
You were also
I'll
shy.
second.
Nancy, all in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, I think we talked about that one.